Just Another Job. Part 2. Fishing Hoods. Rem knew the area between his mansion and the fishing village as the back of his hand. A 2-cargo cart wide, well-maintained cobbled road connected the city of Karat and all outlying settlements, which most were temporary. Indeed, during the long part of the term, or 11 months out of the 19, the land, rivers, as a matter of fact everything except for the old forest, was frozen stiff. The frost weaved its deadly web, its furious gale winds wreaked havoc upon all. Even the strongest magicians dared not face its blue snow. Only those fortunate enough to have an underground house, well supplied with fuel, food, and other necessities, could survive the devastating Caredian weather. Some sages claimed that it wasn't so, and in hallowed antiquities there were more seasons than just the frost and the warmth. Rem always chuckled after reading another one of their newly published scrolls. No matter how the weather was back then, they were living in the here and now. You either adapt or die. There was no in between for the citizens of Karat, and even the monstrous denizens of the old forest. Right now the weather was nice and warm. The last 4 months of the warmth were a time for everyone to prepare, gather their last harvest, fix whatever damage their shelter had suffered during the last frost. That and stock up on fuel. As a matter of fact, Rem could see priests from the god Ero, who carefully collected and chopped down trees marked for firewood the previous turn. While he was running, Rem could only wave to the forest rangers and acolytes, who barely saw him through the thick, overplanted forest. Perhaps after this job, he could visit the temple. Erorians were all a little bit overbearing and somewhat pompous in their manner, appearance, even the way they acted. Although he bowed to Ero, Rem was a Kenite. His chosen deity was Ken, he who gave life, protector of children, and the one who sheltered your soul in afterlife. The one who could bring the dead back into the world of the living, had they not fulfilled their purpose in life. Yes, Rem decided to visit both temples, buy enchanted fuel from the Herodians, and see his old friend, priest Zaratos, was doing. Perhaps a gift was in order. The powerful ancient mummy loved to craft toys for the children living in the poor workers' district. If Rem could procure large fish bones and in sufficient quantity, the blessed undead would be most thankful. During the Festival of Life, after this turn's frost had ended, the undead walk out from their city quarter and give gifts to those children who suffered the most. That was Rem's favorite festival, and as a Kenite himself, he tried to aid his temple as best he could. Now, after an hour of easy running, Rem entered the fishing village, and the soles of his boots touched mud for the first time since yesterday. The man smiled, inhaling the aroma of freshly fried, boiled, and grilled fish, his gaze instantly locking on a food stall where the hoods usually left one of their numbers to scout who entered and left the village. Trying not to step in one or another mud-filled puddle, Rem calmly walked up to the stall and smiled, fixing his rebellious braid before addressing the vendor. "Could you please tell me, good sir, where I may locate the floating shop? It is, I hope, still afloat." The wrinkled old dwarf's stocky arms gestured towards the end of the village wharf, while his mouth, partially obscured by the long, traditional for a fisherman, mustache, muttered back the proper answer. "Certainly, my good sir, it is still very much afloat and sailing, even against the strongest warm winds. Now, may I interest you in some grilled fishies?" Rem politely refused, using the proper hand sign, which, to the 6 well-hidden and armed to the teeth hoods, meant that he was not being trailed by an enemy. The solver of problems saw how they snuck back into their concealed spotting positions, while one of their scouts walked openly on the street. The boy, who looked and acted exactly like a proper fisherman's apprentice, gave Rem the sign to follow him. Most people who knew little about the hoods, like the ordinary man or woman on the street at Karat, couldn't imagine that most of the usual city legends which they were fed were purposefully faked. There was no floating shop. There'd never been any central base of operation or anything centralized for that matter which could be easily located and destroyed. The hoods were vigilantes, and they were indeed everywhere. You never knew who was working for them, and many corrupt officials, cheating traders, and criminals never woke up after laying to bed once they were marked. That job Rem did for the hoods last turn was another one of his freebies. The cheating merchant he snapped the neck of had been slowly leeching off some of the poorest denizens of the workers' quarters. With the memory of that whining, slobbering fat elf begging for his life, the solver of problems followed his guide into a restaurant and sat on one of the free tables. The server, a fine-looking dwarven woman, soon stood next to him, her notebook open and pencil in hand. "What would it be, hun? Big giant cod or turtle soup? Both are today's special and very tasty. If you have the coin to spare, I will call the chef himself and he'll cook something special for you on the table." "Yes, please, call the chef. I'm indeed in the mood for something rather special today. As a matter of fact, could you please tell the chef that I will pay good coin for his force fish special?" The server gifted him with a shining smile, winked, and after leaving a complimentary bowl of fish jerky, quickly dashed to the kitchen. Rem stuffed his mouth full of dried fish, and while he waited for the local hood chapter boss to emerge from the basement, ordered a flagon of beer from the bar. Those sneaky dwarves, those little bastards knew how to run a business. Yes, they did. That free dried fish was so effing dry that patrons simply had to order a drink to chase away its saltiness. He didn't mind it, though. Supporting their family business was always a pleasure, and the money? Well, he should have coins by the chestload before the frost wove its deadly blanket. Another bulky yet shifty-looking dwarf came out of the kitchen wearing a cooking apron and a chef's bonnet. Compared to most dwarves Rem knew, this guy was absolutely jacked. If that wasn't enough to the trained eye of someone like himself, the dwarf's movements seemed almost purposefully slow. He was certain that if push came to shove, that beefy dwarf could run as fast as him, or even quicker. The man's name was Broadham, and was in fact the same hood who contracted Rem to solve their merchant problem. Good, then he didn't need to offer useless pleasantries, but ask what he wanted to know. Broadham pushed a portable alchemical grill next to his table, and after turning up the heat, slapped a large, cleaned up and brined cod on it. While the fish sizzled, his host sat next to him and unrolled a small map, which was masked as an embroiled tablecloth. The ordinary at first glance, yet very magical item he activated by uttering a dwarven tongue twister, and with insane speech nonsenseless. Fresh fishy fish, 100 wriggling little fishies in a fish basket. What do you want to know, Remy boy? My muses told me you were looking for some fresh forest fish, ain't I right? Indeed. That's some elusive and very fresh, recently floated out to Karat fish. Hope your suppliers know where I can fish for it. Bah, freshly floated, he says. Give specifics, boyo, that you know there be many fishes in and out of the water. Forest or no forest, they be needing their monies, them suppliers of mine. Remember, you can order from them suppliers only once, Remy. They can't be hunting the forest fishies forever, you know. Rem deliberated while Brontum swiftly turned the cod and sprinkled it with fish spice. Distancing himself from the mouth-watering fragrance of the sizzling fish, the solver of problems carefully examined his options. Rem had to decide how big of a helping hand he was willing to pay for. Something stank to high vortex, and if Rem had to go after those bandits, he'd be damned to do so without backup. Just in case that certain somebody who lost their oh-so-expensive and important chest so easily omitted an important piece of information. Rem was no fool, neither was he overconfident. He would ask the Hoods for full assistance. Not only a scout team, but one of their war bands. Just in case. It was clear that he had to pay good coin for that and be indebted. Owed the Hoods a favor. Dead men spent no coin. Only undead could do so, and Rem loved his fleshy self too much to become one of the blessed so soon. If you've enjoyed this telling, then please consider subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and sharing, as that would help this channel grow exponentially. Also, give a little support to the writer and author of this tale, Eric Marr, also known as the Black Knight, listed down below. He can be found on Minds.com and is selling books. Star Shatter, a sci-fi novel found on Amazon, also linked below. With that, I want to thank you for visiting. Have a wonderful night. God bless, and farewell.